Bungie. No, really, really good stuff. Specifically, that's for Joe Blackburn, who's the game director for Destiny 2. He came out today and talked a whole lot of stuff about the state of the game that we talked about, and everybody's been talking about if you're a fan of Destiny 2. The state of the game was very disappointing. I went into great detail about how I was disappointed as a player, how I felt like a lot of the trust had been lost between me and the company. That sentiment was basically echoed by about 90% of the community, at least the vocal community, and Bungie felt that, so much so that Joe Blackburn came out today, August 15th, 2023, and put out a video on Twitter about 15 minutes long addressing the state of the game. So we're going to talk about that today because I think this was a very important step in rebuilding trust with the community and letting us know that we are being heard with our concerns. So the first thing with this is that he talks about the showcase. He says the showcase is going to show off like the story, the locations, the themes of the final shape and what that means. It's going to bring about the end of the Light and Darkness saga. They've been talking about this saga for 10 years. It's what we've all been waiting for. And he says, hey, it was recorded a while ago. It's not a response. You're not going to get anything from that you don't or that is going to address anything that's been happening the last few weeks. He even mentions he might have a mustache in that video, but he then goes on to mention really quickly there might be a Xur revamp in the final shape, which would be cool. He also says the strange coins are going to be refactioned, I think is what the term he used. And also there's going to be a rework of the HUD, but he didn't go into updates on that. Those are going to be quality of life things that they'll likely talk about after. He does mention that after the showcase, he's going to have a Q&A with some other people, I believe, from the team about what's going to be going on, probably the actual expansion director, so that they're on the same page. He also mentioned very quickly the live service aspect of Destiny 2 may be changing after the final shape. Hopefully that can mean maybe a lessening of the ridiculous overcharging for everything. Look, I'm okay if you have season passes. I'm okay if you have cosmetics. I'm okay if you have expansions, but all three of them is kind of ludicrous. I would personally love to see just the expansions go free. And I know that's a lot of money every year that Bungie would be kind of throwing away, but if you do that and say, hey, our seasons as a result have to go up to $15, I'm good with that, right? They already raised the price of the seasons. The other thing is that, hey, if I'm not spending $60 or $100, you know, up front every year, I'm likely going to be more inclined to buy cosmetics when they come around, because I'm not like, oh, I already spent $100 on this game this year, right? So that would be one thing. But let's talk about some of the real important stuff, because he did say that, but then he moved on to the biggest chunk of this video, which was PvP. And that's probably what a lot of you are here for. That's what we got excited about, at least me. This is what I got excited about personally, because I mentioned in the last video, I'm not a hardcore PvP player. I used to be, but I still love Destiny PvP when it's just a casual 6v6 fun times. You know, I'll play the fun. I don't really like all the modes, but like Rift is like whatever. Mayhem is fun, you know, Control is fun when it's not super skill-based matchmaking, sweaty, you know, like $1 million on the line tournament level play that a lot of people feel like Destiny 2 has to be. But overall, they're looking to improve Crucible in just about every single way. The first thing he brings up is maps, and maps, I mentioned that is the content that when a lot of people think of like content, that is what they're thinking of with PvP. Not thinking of like, oh, a new game mode, new rule set, right? Because I could go in and make any number of custom rule games if I wanted to, right? We could do that with like the 5-9 clan and in the 5-9 Discord. Make sure, you know, we'll have a link down below. You can join that, join the clan if you like. We could do that and have all sorts of cool, goofy, fun time games. Anyone can go in and make rule sets and stuff. That's not really new content. New content is having new places to play and explore, right? And that's why people are so upset about not having maps for so long. So he mentions that they're making a free map pack that will be available to everybody next year. He said they needed to shift their focus from how they were looking at things because they realized the negative sentiment was just too strong. He realized the community wanted more. And he even said, you know, hey, we've been making like one map a year, and that map has to satisfy like everything, and then it's not really good at anything, right? In case in point being Disjunction. Disjunction is a map that is not very well received, right? It's got these big open kind of parts, and then underneath there's a couple of really small corridors, and then on the sides, like as you go, if you stick to one side, there's really tight corridors, and if you stick to the other, it's really big open spaces, right? So you can see there that they're trying to go, hey, okay, we need a spot for like the snipers and the scout rifle and pulse rifle crew to hang out, which is the outside. We need the shotgun and hand cannon crew to kind of have the middle or the inside, right? That's kind of a good sign that he understands like, hey, this is just not working. It's not working for the community, right? It's working for Bungie. They clearly said it. They clearly said it in their state of the game. This is how it's going to be. And that's, you know, part of what we expressed frustration about, part of what everybody expressed frustration about. Then basically going, well, we're not going to put the resources into it, makes it feel like a big core part of the game that, yeah, they don't charge for, but it's still a core part of the game to a lot of people. It's just being completely neglected. And he said, that's not the right thing to do. And we're realizing that. Like after they saw the backlash, they're realizing like, and I'm not going to just write it off because they have known for years. Before Disjunction, it was like 2.5 years since a new PvP map came in. So they've known for years that the community's not happy not getting maps, right? But it took, I think, this overflowing, you know, kind of emotional response and state of the game that a lot of the community had for them to go, okay, look, we can't continue with the sentiment like this, especially if you want people like, because if you want people to get on the final shape, they're gonna go, right? I said in the last video, I may not, right, if they don't wow me with the thing. I love what Joe Blackburn did today, and I think I'm pretty sure I said it. If not, I mentioned it to Talon. I said it at least in messages to Talon, if I didn't say it in the last video. This is likely decisions being made by like corporate leadership that Joe Blackburn even can't really override. But I think now he's doing what I felt like he needed to do and just stand up and go, look, like we love this game. We love making this game, but we need to make sure that the community leaves happy, right? Because most of the community is still going to come back for Final Shape regardless. But after that, you've got to convince people like, okay, hey, we're ending our big story that we've been going on for 10 years. Oh, and you're not happy with the state of like Gambit or Crucible or Strikes or whatever. And those are still the core things. And then, yeah, you've got to just kind of stick with us and trust us, even though they kind of burned a lot of that trust, right? I think, you know, again, I mentioned it earlier, this is going away to bring back a level of trust. And I've already seen a lot of PvP players ecstatic about this. But aside from having new maps that he says, hey, each map is going to have something it might be good at. One of them may be like close quarters, right? Close quarters combat. One of them may have lanes like Vostok or what have you. But I really think they need to be striving for 3 to 5 map secret. And that's just me. Like you have this game that as often as I've been like, you know, like they could take it out if they want to go real crazy. Like I'm an old school Borderlands player, right? Borderlands to me was always super fun because you never had to worry about PvP after the first one. And you just like do whatever, right? You can have the most insane guns in the world because there's no PvP. And in Borderlands, you know that PvP is like not at all serious. It's like a 1v1 duel that you challenge someone to by slapping them in game. In Destiny, it's like set up and you get rewards and all that. So people take it a little more seriously. But he also goes on to mention that they are bringing more modes, right? They talked about, I forget what it's called, but it's like more of a primary focused mode. And then he talked about, what's the other one? The party mode, Relic, I think it was called. Relic was the party mode. I'm not remembering what the other mode was called. I feel bad because that was the one he said he was really excited about. Joe, I'm sorry, man. But he said that one's really sad. And I'm really hopeful for people who are very into just the gunplay, that they can get what they want out of this mode, because it sounds like that's their focus on. They're like, hey, we're going to limit the special ammo, you know, which is what I'm hoping is like, it's like crates like Destiny 1 had. If you didn't know, in year 3 of Destiny 1, they took all special ammo out. I think you started with special ammo and then you wouldn't get any more until crates spawned and you had to fight over the crates. You had to win a primary fight and then you got a crate of special ammo for your team. And kind of like heavy ammo now, right? And I'm hoping that's what they do, because that I thought was a great system. It kind of struck me as weird that they never did that anything like that in Destiny 2. But then they'll have the relic mode, right? Which is going to be like the synaptic sphere, the relic from the vault of glass, right? The shields you can hold up, or the hammer thing, or the scythe, the scythe from the Leviathan. And those should be fun game modes, right? They also say they're going to make the labs and Iron Banner game modes put those into the core rotation, which I think is good. Having more modes is good, right? There's never anything wrong with having more modes. But again, that doesn't feel like the true content, because at any point I could go in and go, hey, we're doing customs, or we're going to do custom game modes, and we're going to make up game modes that we play, right? I can't make maps. I can make game modes, right? He also goes on to say comp. Comp has been an issue, and they know that. Comp is really demotivating when you're playing and you're like sweating, and you win and you get 5 points, and the next game you lose and you lose like 300 points, right? That's extremely demotivating as a PvP player, right? I haven't even played comp in a while because that system, I was just like, this is dumb. I don't like it. I'm just not going to engage in that part of the game, right? So he said it's going to be more based on like, hey, did you win? You're going to get X amount of points. Did you lose? You're going to lose X amount of points. And it's going to be much more standardized, less just deviation based on who you're matching, which I think is great. Rift will be leaving comp. So for all you Rift haters, that is good news, I assume. I'm okay with Rift. Rift in comp, I don't think is great because, like, I don't know, it just didn't feel good in comp. But there are people who are just like, oh, it's the worst thing ever to happen in comp. And if that's you, then boom. The biggest thing he talks about with PvP is a PvP strike team. Back when I worked at Electronic Arts, right? I worked at EA in the late 2000s. I was put on a strike team for Nintendo because Nintendo, at least back then, was notoriously strict with their certification process. I can't talk about the exact specifics of that, but it would be like that tiniest little even graphical thing could fail your entire game. And I got really good at spotting those weird little Nintendo things, so I was put on the Nintendo task force, right? Or strike force, whatever. I think we called it a task force. He calls it a strike team, right? It's the same idea. It's a specialized team, and he talks about how one was created for incentive during Osiris leading into Warmind, right? And he said those people created the Masterwork system. So this is a big deal. This is saying, hey, we are bringing back having a specific group of people to look at PvP. And Talon, I know you have made that joke, just like all of us have, about the two interns in the back sharing one laptop trying to keep Crucible running. That will not be the case anymore. It's looking like they're going to have a dedicated team specifically there to nailing down issues within PvP, and hopefully a group of people who is still dedicated to trying to make those maps work. One of the other things that he talks about past all this, right? Because PvP is the biggest deal here, that he's really making that effort as the game director to go, hey, look, our PvP community is just feeling it. They need something, right? And as much as I would love them to say, hey, we're going to actually make strikes too, Gambit, I don't care. That mode is, they know it's done. We know it's done. Just let it go. And I know those 12 Gambit fans out there, I'm sorry, but I was a fan of Anthem. I was one of the 12 Anthem fans, and I had to let it go. They go on to say, or Joe goes on to say, excuse me, Season 22 Eververse Armor, one of the sets they made for Eververse will be moved to being earnable in the game. I think it's going to be moved to Ritual Armor, which means we're going to have a nice set of Ritual Armor, which has not been the case. There's been a couple cool pieces over the years, but not very many. I remember the Ritual Armor in Destiny 1, like Crucible Armor and the Vanguard Armor, being a lot cooler. And I think it's just because they're like, well, it's the free side of the game. We're just going to put like the most basic stuff. And then Joe says, one important thing that we need to address, gaming communities are toxic nowadays, a lot of them. And it doesn't matter what game. I have never seen any game where no one is toxic, because that's just like the attitude that's fostered for whatever reason and encouraged nowadays. We'll make jokes and we'll criticize, right? I saw YouTube comments earlier where people like, oh, I'm surprised Bungie had the resources to make this video, right? And the game director is kind of really trying to come out, and he even said at the beginning, like, this is not set up, it's not professional. I'm just trying to talk with you guys here for a minute. When they're really trying like this, you got to give them some credit. And he says, hey, we want to keep talking to you guys and we want to hear you. We're going to be doing that through the official channels, right? Destiny 2 Teams or Destiny the Game Twitter account, things like that. Because the CMs, they have gotten too much, they've been harassed too much. I'm sure he's going to get harassed, right? He mentions at the end, he's going to be doing streaming the game in Season 22. It's going to allow Q&A during the streams. And we want him to do that. He's a game director and he wants to sit down with us and talk with us. Be cool about it. Right? Don't harass. There's no reason, especially if they're trying to make a show of good faith and go, look, we hear you, we messed up, which is effectively what this video is, guys. This is them going, hey, we made a mistake, so we're trying to make it right. And part of being an adult is if someone comes and sits down at the table with you and goes, hey, I was wrong, let me try and make it right. You gotta hear them out. That's part of being an adult. So do that. And yeah, they're not, they're not your family, they're not your friends. They're, $1 billion corporation. But understand that like the corporate level is what's controlling the bad decisions most of the time. Guys like Joe Blackburn or people like Liana Rupert, the CM, right? They don't deserve to be harassed. So just keep that in mind, right? There are people who do love the game. They play the game all the time and they want the game to be good. You think Joe Blackburn's sitting there going like, how can I make this as terrible as possible? No, he's got like 7 people in suits above him going, this needs to make us more money, Joe. And he's like, oh, okay. And they're like, you're not getting any more funding than this, so you better make it work because we want more money. And so when he sits down and tries, speak with the guy, right? Speak with the guy frankly. Say, it's okay to say, hey, feeling disappointed about this. Like, I would love to see some changes here. But you don't need to be like, oh, dead game, terrible, horrible, worst dev ever. $3 billion, by the way. Like, right? We get it. In terms of that, they ask like, hey, we want to communicate, but we need open communication. We need not, especially harassment, right? If you're gonna meme on them, I can't stop you, but don't harass and make threats, right? Because that's not cool. Anyway, what do you think about this whole thing with Joe Blackburn? Right, Joe Blackburn is has always seemed like a dedicated guy who's really just passionate about the game, doing his best. Like I said, I guarantee you he had to step up to corporate leadership and go, this ain't gonna work. This is not gonna fly, because if you are trying to have us sell, this year, and then what comes after with the stuff I'm trying to make for you guys, and we're all trying to make money together. Like I want to make this cool game and you guys want to make money. So I know I have to make you money. Let me try and do it. We cannot just have like the community on fire like this. I really think that he did that with this. But I wonder what you think about this. Is it too little too late for you? Or are you okay to sit down and go, okay, you know what, Bungie? Yeah, you said it. Show me now, right? Because that's my thing. All right, I'm a music teacher, and I will tell the kids all the time, to go, well, I practice this and this and this, and I will just sit there and go, show me, because that is how you know whether or not they're good at their word, right? And I think that's fair here, right? They have said renewed focus on Crucible before, right? And then we got the travesty that is the current comp playlist and trials. So he said it now. We're gonna make maps. We're gonna make changes faster to PvP. Show me. If you're on that, I want to hear from you down below. Okay, if you're open to them showing you, let us know down below. If it's too little too late, tell us down below too. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video and you're still here, I'm LittleBobby with 59 Direct. Subscribe, consider it. We do Destiny coverage. We're going to start covering all sorts of other live service games. Working on Diablo 4. I'm working right now on doing Overwatch Invasion, which I finally got my access to. But let us know. And if you like this, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Let us know in the comments what we can do better for next time. Thank you again so much for watching today, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.